Hey there everyone, welcome to the Whitfield Report. This is a quick bonus stream that I'm doing. I would be surprised if anyone actually tuned into this given the late/early hour of this stream, depending on when you're watching and or listening on the podcast. But in case any of you are watching, I appreciate you tuning in. And, if you guys are catching this on the archive, thank you for watching as well. So on Saturday's episode of the Whitfield Report, I covered my trip to Memphis, Tennessee, where I attended YaleCon and big Libertarian conference there. Let me just say that a lot of the Libertarians I met there were, for the most part, very cordial and very, interesting people to meet and discuss things with. With that being said, I definitely realized that as I've stated before, I'm more of a conservatarian than I am a pure libertarian. And pure libertarians really do tend to irk me. There we go. So, I had a couple of comments and Twittery tweets and emails from people asking me to go over what my main issues with libertarians are. This isn't going to be a this isn't going to be like a majorly long stream, but I do kind of just want to go over it for you. So I guess the first criticism that I have of a lot of libertarians, or at least libertarian millennials, is they seem to think that borders themselves are a bad thing. A lot of libertarians these days seem to be for complete open borders, which I think is a no bueno thing in today's society. You can't not have borders. That's just asking for trouble these days. Hey there, Amethyst, welcome to the stream. So no borders is a big problem because every other country has borders, and even in a libertarian utopia, let's say we didn't have borders. Okay, how would we identify different territories? How would we manage commerce and whatnot? Territories will always exist in some form or another, so just to not have borders, as some of these libertarians would like to have, is just complete and pure nonsense, in my viewpoint. Number two, they want to get rid of all police officers and law enforcement of any type. Well, I agree with the sentiment that the police are a little too militarized these days. I don't think getting rid of cops or the military is necessarily a good idea in its entirety. Why? Because there needs to be an established law and order. There needs to be a system, you know, to judge people on. There's obviously going to be a legal system. Basically, my big problem with libertarians, kind of in a nutshell, at least in 2019, is it doesn't really seem like libertarians are libertarians. And what I mean by that is the libertarian circle that I usually run in, which has become more conservatarian, recognizes that there is a need for government, but they want to keep it very small and very limited. That's kind of become the conservatarian, you know, sect of politics, the conservative libertarian. Puritanical libertarians these days seem to be basically, for all intents and purposes, anarchists, which is not something that I think is a good idea. Anarchy will never exist in its true form, right? I may be one of the only millennials, and I don't mean this to say that I'm, you know, superior or smarter than anyone, but I think I'm one of the only millennials who has read the book Lord of the Flies. For those of you who have not read that book, it's a book written by William Golding in the 50s, I believe it was, and it's fiction, but it's kind of like Orwell's books, and it's very allegorical, and it's about like, it takes place during World War II, and basically this this British boys' school is flying to the British countryside to evacuate, and they're with their teachers and whatnot, and long story short, the plane either crashes or you know, gets shot down. I can't remember which, and the way the plane crashes, it crashes on an island, and it just so happens that all the adults on board are you know, killed, and all the boys miraculously survive somehow and are left to defend themselves. Now, they're, at this point, they range from, like, you know, 5 all the way up to 12. So they, you know, they try and survive on their own. They end up, at first they form like a democracy, and then because democracy takes too long, they basically, you know, either ascend or descend into, you know, pure libertarianism or anarchy. And we see that under anarchy, it doesn't really exist, and there's a power vacuum that, you know, begins to form. And I use this example a lot when kind of talking about why anarchy doesn't work. Piggy always gets, you know, in pure anarchy, Piggy is always going to get killed and bashed over the head with the conch shell. So, yeah, anarchy is not, it's just not going to happen. As many people at YaleCon tried to convince me that, you know, that, like, anarchy, you know, if we could just get the government out of everything and dissolve it, anarchy would work. No, it's not. People are always going to be self-interested, and, you know, if we get rid of, like, democracy or constitutional republic, anarchy is not going to exist. Someone is going to take over and most likely proclaim themselves a monarch. So that's the reason why anarchy doesn't work. Now, another thing that libertarians are, you know, very fond of saying is that the free market will solve everything. And believe me, I'm a capitalist. I love the idea of starting your own business and you know, being an entrepreneur. That's something that I promote heavily, and all that jazz. However, the way some of these libertarians go about things, and I'd like to talk with some more libertarians about this and maybe get some on this show to maybe probe into their opinions on this. But one of the things that I keep hearing is, oh, well, the libertarians could do, the free markets could do better about things like, you know, firefighting and police departments and whatnot. I'm not so sure I want a privatized, competitive police department. That, you know, that leads to, I mean, it's true that government, that there are instances of government, you know, police corruption, too. Surely that exists, but the notion that privatized police departments are going to be even any better is farcical. Same thing with, like, privatized fire departments. I'm not really sure I want, you know, fire departments competing for best possible price on who's going to, you know, put out a fire. Oh, come on, Shady J. You just had to make that joke, didn't you, Jess? So. Guys, I'm not the gay one. And speaking of that, that's another reason why I'm against anarchy. We've already kind of seen, you know, pure libertarianism and, you know, anarchy in the little microcosm known as the Unbearables. And, you know, I mean, do I really need to, like, elaborate on that? That hasn't gone over very well at all. But anyway, back to my little on capitalism. Yes, I appreciate, you know, entrepreneurs. I appreciate people who create business. But I don't think that privatizing the military, privatizing the police, you know, just to say that would somehow stamp out corruption by privatizing it, I don't get the logic. The other thing is, okay, capitalism is a good thing, but a lot of these libertarians assume that everyone's going to, you know, just, if we were to just get rid of the government and everything were to be, you know, free market capitalism, they assume that everyone would, be able to thrive in that climate. And the thing of it is, we live in a society where a lot of people are not economically aware, you know, just in general. So, and I mean, granted, I was at, like, a convention where there were a lot of politically inclined people, but see, that's the other thing. Whenever you get anyone together from, like, a big political convention, you get this echo chamber where they seem to think that, like, and believe me, conservatives do it too sometimes, and so do liberals. But anytime you get, like, a group of politically inclined people together, like a big conference, they somehow start tending to think that everyone knows exactly what they're talking about and that they're politically inclined. And, I'm sorry to say that, you're not going to be able to, teach people in impoverished neighborhoods. Sure, you could teach them economics, but you have to have the delivery system to, be able to teach them. I do think school choice is a good idea. That's something that, isn't necessarily a libertarian principle. That's something that, a lot of conservatives have been advocating for years, too. But, I guess just from what I was hearing at YaleCon, the way that some of these libertarians went about things, they were just assuming that we can automatically get rid of the government and make everything a free market-based society, and that's not true. So, did any fights break out at the conference? No fights broke out at the conference, but this was the other funny thing. So these libertarian kids were all talking about how you shouldn't worship politicians or, or worship public figures at all. And yet, one of these kids brought up the fact that they think that Owen Benjamin is like a free speech warrior and a libertarian. So I pulled out my phone and started showing him some of the Johnny Arcade videos, and oh boy, the fact that I criticized Dear Big Bear in public, and also, broke this kid's illusion that, that Owen was a libertarian public figure. And that's the other thing. And this isn't really even a libertarian thing, this is just kind of on my own thing, is I'm sorry, but I just, as hard as I try, I can't get away with, I can't get away from the Owen Benjamin thing. I try, folks, I do. I try to shift topics. But even when I go out in public, it seems like there's always someone who is asking, hey, have you ever heard of, and I'm like, yes, I know way too much about that man. More than I ever wanted to know. So, but, I do agree with, that politicians and public figures are not to be worshipped. that only God is to be worshipped, or, if you believe in that. That's the other thing. There were a lot of atheists who, at that conference, and I don't have a problem with atheists per se, as long as they're not like, as long as they're not, jerks about it. But I do have a problem with atheism itself. I don't know, the idea that we just go into the ground and when we die, and that there's no higher power, and that there's nothing else really out there that doesn't make all this, that's just impossible. And I think that even if you're not like a Christian, or if you're religious. I think at least believing in that there's some, being higher than yourself out there is, I think that's necessary. Um, well, okay, so yeah, so I will say this: I didn't really get into a fight over the own thing, but I will say that Shady J in the chat, for those of you listening in the audio podcast, said that sad that young groups like that are okay with his shit. Yeah, I mean, look, the thing about Owen that I tend to notice is that Owen tends to attract young men who, as far as I can tell, they don't have that they don't have strong father figures in their lives, or male father figures in their lives at all. So they turn to Owen thinking that he'll be like a source of wisdom and guidance, and instead he turns out to be, this guy who talks about how we didn't go to the moon and whatnot. It really is sad, and I mean that's the other thing is, like, I'm sorry, as much as capitalism might be great, as much as free markets might be good. I do feel like we do need a society, and we do need some form of a structure in society, as opposed to anarchy, socially, if for no other reason. And I do think that clearly is a big problem with leftism. Is now we've kind of gotten rid of the nuclear family, and we've also gotten rid of the importance of families, and in particular fathers in society. And that was one thing that Owen, in the days when I started following him, would talk a lot about, before I went into conspiracy land. And I still, I don't think that there are very many people who would disagree with that. I think, having better fathers is something that our society needs. However, that's not going to get solved with, free market capitalism or, more government influence. That's a spiritual problem that, and a societal problem that we all need to address. So, not all of society's issues can be dealt with economically, as some of these, ANCAPs tend to think. At least the ones that I encountered at YellowCon. Some of them tend to think this way. But, anyway, I would genuinely love to have, like, more of a discussion with, libertarians about things like, the police and whatnot, because I do think that there are lots of libertarians out there who have the right idea, in regards to limiting the government. The idea of some of these, like, puritanical anarchists, that's what really gets my rub, kind of. So, and that's the type of stuff I don't like, so. Anyway, that will do that for now. So, this was a good I would say 25 minutes or so that we had on the bonus stream. So I want to thank you for watching, and I'll try to do like another stream on Streamlabs tomorrow that's a bit earlier, so that we can get some more people in here and participate. So if you like this video, please like and comment, and please subscribe to the channel. As always, I really appreciate that, and thank you, and God bless, and God free legacy in that order.